Welcome, you're watching Market Sense here on The Full View. Now, everyone wants small businesses to grow, but the question is, how? Well, Old Mutual reckons driving financial inclusion amongst entrepreneurs and small business owners will ensure that they're equipped with the knowledge to transform those businesses. To discuss this issue further, I'm joined from our Cape Town studios by Khanya Okumu, who's the SME Development Manager at Old Mutual. Khanya, good evening to you and thank you for talking to us. But first of all, by financial inclusion, are you still talking about access to a bank account? What exactly do you mean?
Sure, thanks, Bongani. So by financial inclusion, we mean a few things. First of all, it means access to affordable finance to the extent that it relates to entrepreneurs. So as a financial services provider, we need to be able to provide finance for businesses to start up. But that's more a secondary issue. More around financial inclusion, we're actually talking about financial education and the importance that that plays in the entrepreneurial journey. So understanding the role of finances, how to manage your finances both personally and as a business owner. And then we get to the bigger conversation around advice and how to properly structure your business in a way that is sustainable but also speaks to being able to create profitability and in the long term jobs.
Of course, we know that the majority of small businesses are in the informal sector, and that often means they're unbanked. How do we change those things? How do we formalize their entry into the wider economic system, so to speak, formally?
Sure. So I don't think the question is about how we formalize them. I think the question is a broader one around overall inclusion. The mistake that we can make is taking informal businesses that are thriving and putting strict governance and requirements for them that can eventually make them fail. So
but
it's for us,
the reason many of them don't enter the system,
to create partnerships that are able to speak to the needs of these businesses, whether they're informal or formal, should be reflected in the response and the product and solution that is built for their specific needs.
Part of the reason many of these businesses don't enter the formal sector in the first place is exactly the concern that you raise. But it also then is a double-edged sword because it also then means their financial exclusion. Sure.
Yeah, so I think the market is broad, right? And what we need to be very clear about is that there's a space in this economy for all the players. Now, what we need to do is look at how do we create a conducive environment to do business. And that's part of the thinking around the Old Mutual entrepreneurship ecosystem. It's for us as a financial services player to really think about what are the things that we do really well. We do really well in providing financial education. We do really well in providing financial advice. We do really well in creating platforms for entrepreneurs. Now, we as a 173-year-old giant may not be as agile as informal or startup or SMEs are. And that's where the partnerships become more important, because there you're moving towards an inclusive economy as opposed to exclusive in the point that you're making.
All right, I mean, there's always this call for government to create jobs, right? And yet we know that most people in employment are actually within this sector to begin with. So how do we make sure that through processes of financial inclusion, we grow the SMME sector?
Sure, that's 100% correct. And that's part of the rationale for Old Mutual as well. The ability of large corporates to create jobs is very limited. But at the end of the day, also, if you think about it, most people don't start businesses to create jobs. Most people start businesses because they have an idea or there's a problem that they'd like to solve in a creative way, or really for sustenance. And so the jobs are created once those businesses become sustainable. The jobs are created once those businesses go for longer than what they had imagined. And so the job creation part is linked to other factors. Those other factors being, do these small businesses have access to markets? Do these small businesses have access to skills? Do these businesses have access to funding in order to execute on those markets? And so these things need to work together before you get to the job creation question, because there are very few people who start businesses for the sole purpose of creating jobs. Rather, the jobs are an output of a well-functioning, sustainable business.
Right, we're going to have to leave it there. Old Mutual, of course, taking this issue very, very seriously, trying to create those partnerships and highlighting the needs for that kind of intervention. Right, that brings us really then to the end of Market Sense.